All right, though the season's over, JP, you know we got to keep the competition going on this show. We're both competitors. We're both competitive guys.
Yeah.
It is the off season, so we're going to introduce a little something new. It's called the Rock Fight.
Oh, boy.
And it's a good old-fashioned game of rock, paper, scissors, but with higher stakes because we like a little stakes around here. So here's the rules. We're going to throw on shoot. Rock, paper, scissors,
shoot.
Shoot. Why? Because that's what we do. There will be no ties. We will play until there's a winner. Guest hosts will sub in when one of us is absent.
Okay.
The other guy must buy lunch for every 5 wins by his opponents. Now, JP likes to eat. You like to eat lunch at Nobu and other things like that. I've seen it. So I'm a Chipotle guy.
Okay.
Can we keep it? Can we set an upper limit on the lunch, or
we'll
it's all on the table?
We'll set a limit on the lunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how are you feeling about this?
Year. I'm feeling solid about this. I know you're a formidable opponent, but I'm going to give the best that I got.
I don't want to get ahead of myself. I was going to wait to say this, but I think of myself very, very highly when it comes to rock, paper, scissors. I had 2 younger brothers. Everything was settled with rock, paper, scissors. So I'm hoping, willing, attempting, trying to get this one solved out. So what do you think here? Best out of 3? You ready to run it?
What are we doing? We just doing one round?
Okay.
It's just one, right?
Just one round?
Yeah.
All right.
So high stakes, baby.
Let's see what you got. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Yeah, baby! Woo! The blue corner just keeps on winning. The blue corner is on an absolute hot streak right now. JP, what are you gonna do?
Just ruin my day.
What are you gonna do?
Just ruin my day. Red corner, blue corner. Right here on Stadium, Jake Butt, the Michigan Wolverine. Blue corner is just on an absolute hot streak right now. There he is, All-American tight end, Mackey Award winner, the whole shebang.
And this is Joshua Perry, a national champion, a captain, all-around great guy. Excited. I mean, look, we had a great season last fall with you guys. I had a great season with you here on the show, but now we're turning a new page. I'm excited to kick this year off with you here in person. I know we've done some virtual shows.
Yeah.
It's good to be back here in our home office.
Man, it's good to have you back. I know the regular season's over, postseason's over, but still a lot of content to get into, so we'll be visiting you here twice a week. You can scan that QR code on your screen, submit your content. We really want to get that fan feed going, so anything you guys have, we'd love to have to play back on this show. You can also follow us on Instagram at @redcorner_Blue Corner. Now, today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a day of remembrance, obviously, for one of the greatest civil rights leaders in world history. I know a lot of us have the day off. People are going to be taking in sports, but let's take the time also to remember the life and legacy of Dr. King here on this day.
Absolutely. I mean, we get a lot of days off. I think it's important that we do reflect on what this day specifically means, right?
No doubt, no doubt. But let's talk about what happened over the weekend there in Ann Arbor, because there were some Wolverines that were celebrating, held a parade to celebrate the national championship victory. Now, Jake, I know you were not there in person in Ann Arbor, but what conversations have you had with people about the festivities that took place over the weekend?
I mean, what an event. The videos looked awesome. I was at my bachelor party, funny enough, so I was with a bunch of Michigan guys. We were following it on social media. Look at that, shirts off. The thing is do not be deceived by the shirt off. Look at the rest of them. It was very, very cold, but just talking to people, the turnout was unbelievable. The Michigan fans were fired up. Just kind of as I was writing this down, of course, cold comes to mind. It was glorious. It was emotional. I think vindicating is another word that comes to mind, at least in the eyes of the Michigan Wolverine football team and the Michigan community. This parade was symbolic of everything that happened throughout the season. A parade for college teams is really not a common experience. I know we're going to ask you about your post-national title game festivities. In my understanding, it's not a common experience. But to me, again, symbolic. This felt like Michigan versus everybody. It felt like a way to recognize not just the team's success, but the community standing behind their team. That phrase that was said repeatedly throughout the year, and really a fitting end to the season. Because to me, there's another piece that's symbolic about this. This team meant so much to the community. I mean, I know every national title team feels like they're special. I certainly felt like this team was different. I did my due diligence talking to people that have covered the sport. Like, man, is this really as special as it feels? And it certainly feels that as though that's the case. It felt like we watched J.J. McCarthy grow up. I mean, we're looking at his Twitter from back when he's 17, 18 years old. We know his full story. Blake Corum, you want to talk about being a young college freshman to becoming a man. You know, when we think about this community, they meant so much to the community way beyond winning. I mean, Blake Corum, the turkey drive, the toy drive, J.J. McCarthy's foundation, what these guys have done to give back to the community, it felt like they brought everybody in along with them on this journey. So a true fitting end to the season there with the parade.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you mentioned that I really resonate with is how uncommon a parade is, right? Like there's one champion, so there's one parade that happens every year, and it's like the confetti games, right? Like I always had a thing about confetti. In any game that I played in, when the confetti fell and it was in our favor, I would pick some up and I would take it home. I've got confetti saved at my parents' house right now from those games. And it's just to really celebrate that moment. And so the idea of having the community there, and you bring up the Michigan versus everybody thing, and I know it's a rallying cry that a lot of people outside of Ann Arbor, outside of the state of Michigan, outside of Michigan Nation can't stand, but for a lot of those people, it really did feel like it was the one thing that they had that bonded everybody throughout the season. It felt like it was a way to galvanize a fan base and a team toward their destiny. And so to gather all of those people together and to be able to hoist the trophy and to have the players speak and to watch as all of them went by and to cheer and celebrate really what they did, I think it's a really fun thing. And for people to be out there in bitter cold weather too, more power to you, because I know that wasn't pleasant necessarily standing there in the elements, but what's pleasant is knowing that you are a champion.
You know, I wonder if part of the parade thing, like why you don't have it for college students, is because, hey, not every one of them, not every kid is of age. Like I remember, you know, all the professional parades, you know, the players are on top of the buses, they're tossing Rob Gronkowski beer and he's chugging it,
right.
and Kelsey's chugging it. You can't do that in college unless you're 21. But there's Trevor Keegan. It was just funny to me to see college kids out in the open. They've earned the right to drink that beer, man. Also, did you see the passing of the did you see what, you know what I'm talking about?
Did.
JJ they said that's a $30,000
I had to hold
ball.
my breath.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, they got it nowadays. If they break it, they got all the NIL money.
No
Back
doubt.
in the day, I couldn't even touch the damn trophy.
Hey, man,
because we were broke.
Hey, one guy you trust is Mikey Sainer still, and he got it done. How about, so you kind of touched on this, just the uniqueness of this parade. What do you remember about your national championship celebrations?
Yeah, so we didn't have necessarily a parade through the streets. We all gathered in Ohio Stadium to celebrate it, and it was a cold day. It was in January, but the idea of sitting up there, and we kind of had a section of the team where it was kind of just like general, and then there was a stage where some of the key contributors, the captains from the year before, guys who were probably going to be captains the next year, got to sit, and I was one of them who got to sit up there on that stage. And to be recognized not only by my peers on the team, but by Buckeye Nation was something that was really special to me. And they named Lane Avenue, which is one of the main thoroughfares right around campus, Champions Way. And I thought it was really amazing to have a street that they were going to dedicate to us. The sign is still up there in Columbus. And so the idea, again, of the celebration, kind of the opportunity, this is one of the first opportunities to really reflect upon a season. And for Michigan, we know all the things that they went through. When I won the championship, we went through a lot. We suffered a loss early in the season. Our quarterback got hurt against our biggest rival. We had a teammate of ours, unfortunately, who committed suicide that year. And it was a mystery of where he actually was for a little while. And the ability to sit there as champions and reflect on all the things that we had to overcome to get to that point, I thought was really important about the actual celebration part of it. So, you know, I commend what they did this year, and I certainly resonate with all the emotions that go along with being a part of such a big celebration.
Yeah, I appreciate you laying that out, because it does provide, you know, I said, hey, I wonder, does every team feel special? And each team does feel special in their own way. And
no
you
doubt.
just laid out a great reason why yours was special, but certainly every national title is special.
All right, well, let's talk about the architect of the national title
about
there.
This, yes.
In Jim Harbaugh, and he's wasted no time getting his offseason started. Reports say that he is meeting with the Chargers today about their head coaching vacancy. Before we get into all of the, you know, Jim Harbaugh in and of himself and the decision that's going to be made, do you think this is actually a good fit for him?
Here's the thing. I don't think there's a bad fit for Coach Harbaugh. And I just say that because of the track record. Where has he been a bad fit? You know, he's won everywhere he's been. Every place he's coached at, he has left it better than where he inherited it. And I think we've seen time and time again the value of a good coach, what a coach can mean to an organization, to a program. Sometimes you're one coaching hire away from reaching that next level.
No doubt.
That Chargers roster is loaded, right? They don't have a lot of holes. I think Jim Harbaugh, him coming into the Chargers, all of it, they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I look at the Broncos roster with Sean Payton, the same scenario, a guy that's won a Super Bowl himself. They are immediately elevated by getting a proven head coach. So does it fit? Absolutely. But I think Jim would fit anywhere.
I think he fits there. And what you mentioned about their roster is the thing that stands out to me is, first off, they've got a veteran quarterback there in Justin Herbert. And I think that he would be able to accelerate the success of an organization with a quarterback like that. They do have salary cap issues, though, in L.A., and it's something that he's going to have to work through. And a lot of the big-name talent, some of those guys are going to have to be casualties in order to make sure the salary cap can work. But I think he's a guy who can bring culture, and it's something the Chargers are looking for. It's something that they've lacked even going back to when they drafted me. And so from that standpoint, I think it makes sense. But, you know, we talked about Jim Harbaugh's mission to bring Michigan back.
Yes.
And he's done that.
Yeah.
Is that a good reason for him to now leave?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Is it a good reason for him to leave? I don't think to me, as a guy that played for him, as a Michigan alum, as a Michigan graduate, I don't think that Jim doesn't need a reason to leave. Jim has earned the right to choose what's best for him at any point in time. The program he inherited at Michigan, the year before, it was my sophomore year, we were 5-7. We were booed in our own stadium by our own crowd. Our own crowd chanted to fire our head coach and fire our athletic director. Think about how we opened the show talking about a parade celebrating Michigan. Those are the two opposite ends of the spectrum. He took Michigan at the bottom of the barrel and brought them to the highest glory that you can achieve in college football. And I know Jim Harbaugh, he's a competitor. If in his mind he says, I won a national title, I now want to be one of, I think Pete Carroll might be the only other one that's won a national championship and a Super Bowl.
Sure.
That's a very, very small list. If he wants to go pursue that, he owes Michigan nothing at all, and I'll support him regardless. Perception is reality. When he inherited Michigan, I remember teams would take the field versus us and play so hard because they knew that there was blood in the water for Michigan. And all the programs that don't get to call themselves the leader and the best, they couldn't wait to kick Michigan's ass because it brought them joy. Michigan is now back to that level of national respect, and you got to give credit to Coach Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think he deserves a lot of credit. I would say the only thing, if we want to talk about what he may or may not owe Michigan, is the looming NCAA penalties. Should he be the guy to be there and serve the punishment as long as the punishment is affecting the program? I don't think that I'm not going to cast any aspersions if he decides to leave. He brought them a damn championship.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you look at Michigan Twitter right now, everybody would tell you it's worth it regardless of what comes down the line here. And that's what he was brought here to do.
The only thing I would wish is that the decision got made sooner, because I would have loved Kalen DeBoer. I think that was a phenomenal hire from Alabama. The sooner you make this decision, the better candidates you could pursue. Okay, that's the head coach. What about the quarterback? The two most important pieces for any football program or organization. So we're talking about the championship parade. J.J. McCarthy kind of hinted he would have a decision the following day. Well, J.J. McCarthy, who has been quoted by Jim Harbaugh as the greatest quarterback to ever wear the winged helmet, he declared for this year's draft. JP, you and I have had a number of conversations about this. I want to get your thoughts on, do you think he would have benefited from one more year at Michigan?
No. I think he would have benefited from one more year in college. I'm not exactly sure he would have benefited from one more year at Michigan. This is the reality of Michigan right now, is the offensive line is going to need some retooling. They've got guys who are leaving. They're going to have to figure out how to replace those guys. Okay. You've got a running back room now without Blake Corum. Donovan Edwards announced that he is coming back. I think Donovan's phenomenal, so you're probably going to get similar production in the run game, but Donovan has been inconsistent, though, and so that's a question mark. I look at the wide receivers. I don't know what that room's going to look like next year, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a great room on paper. I know those guys can develop through time, so I'm not going to make a judgment right now. And then you got A.J. Barner, who's leaving that tight end room. Colston Loveland's back, really good player. This is not an offense that has traditionally been quarterback-centric. It is an offense that is losing a lot. And so if J.J. McCarthy were to come back to college, I always felt like it was going to be the best decision for J.J. to come back and then to transfer, go somewhere else where it's more quarterback-focused. Now, I am not an idiot. I am no fool. I know there was no chance of J.J. ever doing that. And so the second best option for him was to go to the NFL because the NFL loves guys with upside, and that's exactly what he is. I don't think he's a finished product, but I do think he's a guy who's really talented, guy with a great arm, guy with great movement skill, a guy who is smart, a guy who is great in the locker room, and the NFL will love that.
Let me make sure I heard this right? Because you want JJ, if you, in a perfect world, if you were his advisor, you would bring him back to college and have him transfer to a better situation.
Yes. An offense.
A better situation
that would
to develop him.
Showcase his skills better.
Okay.
But I know that's never going to happen. I'm saying that knowing that was never an option for him, but it was probably the best option for him.
That's a very interesting perspective. We'd love to hear your.
Do you agree or disagree?
I will say this. There's certainly better places. There's better. Lincoln Riley, if he played it for USC, the stats would look a lot different, right? That means certainly.
What about him in the Washington offense? What Alabama's going to have now with Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer, right?
It would look different. It would certainly look different. But I can't say in my eyes, I still think that what he did at Michigan, there's a lot of valuable characteristics to playing at the next level. And being the leader of turning around a program, just like Aiden Hutchinson, I think that was a big piece for the Lions' success. JJ as a leader in that locker room translates to the next level. I do think that what he did this year, I get it. We're not going to draft you off your checkdowns, but being disciplined for the most part, not perfect. JJ took it to his next level, being disciplined, hitting his checkdowns. I still saw his progressions, 1, 2, 3, 4. His feel of putting the ball in the zones. I saw progression in terms of the intangibles of playing the quarterback position, even though the stats aren't always sexy. I saw foundation being laid, so when he does get to the next level, this is the trend. He's going here to here to here to here. He's trending in the right direction in terms of playing the quarterback position well.
I just felt like there were a lot of opportunities where they took the ball out of his hands in very important games. A lot of 1, 2-man schemed up routes, wide delays, deep overs for Roman. I would like to see a little bit more of, we're going to put the ball in your hand and you're going to have to dot a guy up, and that's what the offense is going to be. It's just a little bit of a wait and see. I know he's going to be a good NFL player, but a little bit of wait and see for me.
I think we saw enough at it. I think we saw the second half of TCU last year. We saw the playmaking ability. I think Alabama, you saw at times that game the playmaking ability. So the truth of the matter is we will see. Now, what do you guys, you hear a little bit of our voice? Little cold flu. Don't get it twisted. We're bringing the juice here in the new year. But we do have to take a quick break. On the other side of that break, we're going to talk about Washington, who wasted no time hiring their next head coach. We'll get you up to speed on the Huskies' new leader. That's in just a few. And later, what do football players do in January? We will give you a player's perspective on the start of the offseason. That and more next on Red Corner, Blue Corner. welcome back to Red Corner, Blue Corner. We're talking about the Washington Huskies. They got their guy, tabbing former Arizona head coach Jedd Fisch as their next head coach. The buyout from Tuscan will cost Washington $7 million, but that will be offset by the $12 million they're getting from Alabama's deal with Kalen DeBoer. So I played for Jedd Fisch. He was my passing game coordinator at Michigan in 2015 and 2016.
All right.
I got some big-time thoughts on him, but I want to give you the floor here to grade the hire.
Okay, well, I feel like I don't want to grade this hire until I hear what your thoughts are. Now, on the surface, Jedd Fisch, what we watched him do at Arizona, that was a team that won 10 games this year. Really good job there. The quarterback situation for them was not ideal. He did a phenomenal job of developing that position through his building. And so for me, I would say that this is a B-plus type of hire there. Jedd Fisch is a guy, and I've talked to some people that know him as well. And one of the things that I have heard is that he's a good coach, maybe not ready for this opportunity, which is a very interesting thing to hear. But watching what he did at Arizona this year specifically and what he had to overcome to get it done, feels like a really good job. And for Washington, he'll be able to have more resources. They can recruit at a little bit of a different clip there. And ultimately, I think he could develop that program.
I think it's an A hire. I think it's an A hire. Okay, so you see that stat down there, right here. 16 and 21 in 3 seasons at Arizona. Context is everything. What did he inherit? Arizona was on a 12-game losing streak when he got into town. They were 1-11. Then they went to 5-7. And then this year, as you said, JP, 10-3. And you bring up a point that I've heard before, that Jedd Fisch, maybe he's not ready. I've heard that. I've heard that a couple times. But for a team like Washington, I think this is an A hire because you're hiring a guy that has that potential. Sure, you may think he's not ready. Let's just wait and see. I got a hunch. You look at that track record, you think of the guys he's coached under, Bill Belichick, Sean McVay out there for the LA Rams. You know, he has coached under some excellent head coaches, one older and wiser, one younger in McVay. So he's learned under the best. I also considered a few reasons for why I gave this a hire. Washington had to move fast. In today's world, you have to move fast. DeBoer is out. All of a sudden, you're going to lose commits. You're going to lose transfers. Your guys are going to transfer. They moved quickly. They wasted no time. But they weren't rushed. You want to move fast? But don't be rushed and make a bad decision. They move strategically. And you take a guy with Fisch with that track record, a track record that I like a lot. My time at Michigan, he was one of the best teachers of football.
That's important.
The offense we had, man, I'm telling you, in my first 2 years, 2013, 2014, JP, there was times when teams would call out our plays. We would get up to the line of scrimmage, and the defense would say, outside zone right here, and they'd send a Sam and a strong safety, and we'd run right into it and have negative yards, and it was so frustrating. Well, I get it. Then the answer would be, guys, well, let's just call 10 plays in the huddle. That doesn't work unless you know how to teach football and to simplify football. And if you don't believe that your next play you're going to call in the huddle is going to gash them, if that's the correct play to be called. Jedd Fisch did all of that. And I'll let you want to expand on that, the value of being a good teacher in the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in college football, you're working with guys who are all developmental. Like, regardless of if you have the 5-star #1 ranked recruiter, you got a guy who was unranked in the class. Like, these are all people who need to learn football at a higher level than what they're coming from. So the ability to teach, I think, is huge. And it kind of gets into this priority, too, and I want to talk about this real quick. First priority is not just teaching and developing and all those different things. I think Washington needs to revamp recruiting a little bit, right? And they were on the upswing there with Kalen DeBoer with what they were able to do, especially with the profile. But that roster that Washington had was a very developmental roster, right? I feel like you need to get some dudes in there now. And if you can teach dudes, you're a good coach.
Okay, you bring up Michigan as well. Like, Michigan was not as developmental as Washington, but something I want to explore, and I'm now keeping my eye on is What if the recruiting websites aren't always right?
They're not.
What if you're scouting? What if you are a better scout than the recruiting websites?
You should be.
Because Washington, sure, developmental, they're going to put a lot of dudes very high in the draft, and they have been putting dudes highly in the draft. That program's in a solid place in terms of not what they inherit from high school recruiting rankings, but where they're at when they leave.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, and to the point of all of this, I think that Urban Meyer is one of the best teachers of football I've ever been around. He used to coach us in special teams meetings. It mattered. The other thing that he did really well is he knew how to identify and develop guys. And so if you can get a combination of all of those things, my goodness.
Great point.
You're going to be in a really good spot. Okay, but let's talk about what's happened in the wake of Kalen DeBoer's departure from Washington to Tuscaloosa. Washington players have hit the transfer portal almost immediately. And one of those guys was the newest Husky and quarterback Will Rogers. He originally committed to Washington from Mississippi State and was even on the sidelines for the national championship game. Is there another Big Ten school that comes to mind when you think about Will Rogers and his services?
I just think he should stick with it at Washington. I just think he should stay there. He was in a picture with Jed Fish.
Yeah.
You know, he was shaking Jed Fish's hand. You talked about it earlier in terms of what Fish has done developing quarterbacks. You know, his track record, you know, at Arizona and even going back to my time at Michigan, what he was able to do for our passing game on a consistent basis. I believe if I was to play quarterback, I'd want to go play for a guy like Jed Fish. Consistently, Arizona's passing game was towards the top of the country. And if we want to talk about developmental programs, Arizona wasn't getting five-star recruits either now. Like, he was doing that through scheme, through technique, and through development, JP.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Washington would be the best fit. I think Michigan should do due diligence. Not saying that I believe he's the answer for Michigan.
That'd be nice.
But they should do their due diligence in that scenario. And another one that I think would be intriguing in terms of doing their due diligence would be Maryland. Talia Tagovailoa is on his way out. I know that the quarterbacks looked really good in the bowl game against Auburn, but if you could bring in a veteran guy who's a gunslinger by nature, it feels like it'd be a little bit of a fit for what they've done in the past.
This comes full circle because part of what you're talking about earlier with why you suggested JJ should leave to another school is because perception is reality, and the perception for Michigan is, you know, you're not going to maximize your stats as the quarterback position. JJ will go 9 for 14 for 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, and Michigan will win. That's going to be different from, you know, what Jed Fish is going to try to do out at Washington. I would like that fit. I suspect, wouldn't be surprised if Will Rogers stays at Washington.
I wouldn't be shocked either, and I don't think it'd be the worst thing for him. But one thing we do know that we're going to get this upcoming season is a national championship rematch when Michigan visits Washington on October 5th during conference play. In the NFL, it's a huge deal when we get the championship rematch. College football, it's a little bit different. Rosters are ever evolving, coaching staffs ever evolving, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you expect the hype to be and the fanfare to be for this matchup?
It'll be high, but not necessarily because it's a rematch. The thing about what's different, the biggest difference between college and the NFL is the roster turnover and the coaching turnover. Like in the NFL, you're going to play in a Super Bowl, and you're going to face the same stars, at least.
Yep.
The same quarterbacks, the same coaches,
the core.
The big-time players. The core, Michigan's going to look completely different. Washington's going to look complete. Washington will have a new head coach and a new quarterback and a bunch of new stars. Michigan will have a new quarterback, a bunch of new stars, and potentially a new head coach. It'll be exciting just because it's the new Big Ten. But beyond that, I can't say that I think it's going to be overly exciting because it's a rematch of the national title game.
Yeah, it's. I think the other part that would play into maybe a lack of hype in this, and this is not to throw stones at anybody, Michigan could have a loss by this point in the season. I mean, they get started off. They got
Schedule's
Texas
brutal
early on in the year. It is a brutal schedule, and we've talked about that. And this is a team that is going to have to replace a lot in the early part of the year. We know how difficult that can be. I'm trying to pull up Washington's schedule here, too. I mean, we expect them to probably take a little bit of a step back as well. Maybe not the same opportunity to be with a loss as Michigan, but the idea that either one of these teams might not be the CFP finalists next year is not out of the question. And so I think that might draw a little bit away from the hype.
I got their schedule. Weber State,
Okay.
Eastern Michigan, Washington State, Northwestern, Rutgers, all before Michigan.
All right, so
5-0?
Yeah, they could probably
be.
go in there undefeated. I know.
Could be.
Michigan's
They'll
got-
both be ranked probably, right?
No, for sure. I mean, I think
ranked.
Michigan, they got Texas early on. I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think Michigan should be able to piece it all together. So it'll be an interesting thing, no doubt. And I'm personally excited that we have a national champion and a runner-up in the Big Ten this upcoming season. But we're going to take a break right here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. But coming up, do you ever wonder what college football players eat? Because we'll take you through our experiences and how it's all different in today's world. That's on the other side of this break. Make sure you stick around.
All right, welcome back. As we check the calendar here, we are in this weird space on the college football calendar. After all the bowl games, after the national title, and now we're in that space before spring ball officially starts, AKA winter conditioning, winter program. JP, why don't you lay it out for our viewers? I do think this is an interesting topic of what your experiences are like as a football player during the month of January.
Well, if I'm a football player in Ann Arbor this year after a championship, I'm going to tell you that nobody's going to class right now, and everybody's at the bars all the time because you are celebrating a national championship win. It was very funny, actually, after we won the thing for the 14 season. It's like January of 15. None of us were going to class. We were all going partying, hanging out, staying out, the whole deal. Urban calls a team meeting toward the end of January, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing? He's like, I'm getting these reports that none of you guys are going to class. Like, some of you haven't logged a single assignment yet for the semester. And he's like, if you keep screwing around like this, you're not going to be eligible. Like, we're going to have a problem for next year because none of you guys are going to be able to play. So take your ass to class and stop screwing around. And I had a teammate who that spring had a .8 GPA at one point, which is crazy, really hard to do. but that's real. Typically, though, what happens is you play in your bowl game, you get back. Coaches will give you some time off. Week, 10 days, and especially if your bowl game ends, which most of them do, before the new semester starts, you get that time off. Then you get back on campus, probably call a team meeting. You go through what's called discretionary workouts. So these are workouts that are not necessarily mandatory. They tell you they're not
discretionary.
Mandatory. You better be there. But they're not allowed to really coach you during the workout. So they're player-led and self-guided. You do that part of it. By the time the end of January comes up, though, you are fully back into the off-season program. And then once February hits, you're in hell. And so that's basically the way that it goes. Like, January is the only reprieve that you really get throughout the year.
Discretionary is the funniest word. I forgot about that word till you brought it up. Hey, this is discretionary. Yeah. But, you know, there is a little list, and your name will get checked whether you are or not there.
You know what? We can't actually take attendance here, but you just make sure you track your workout on this card and then turn it in when you're done.
Yeah.
Well, why do you want to do that?
Yep.
Oh, so you can take attendance. Got it.
Good. I mean, listen, if you want to be great, great. Discretionary is great because it's also you get to see who actually wants to be there. Okay, so like. Football conditioning is so challenging and so hard, especially at the college level, because, okay, in the NFL, you are training, you're performance training in the NFL. By then, you've proven that you clearly love the game. For the most part, 99% of the guys clearly love the game. You're training to try to chase little small percentage points so you can go succeed. At the college level, you're not just training and working out, you're building a culture. So what that really means is you can see there you're doing tug of war and tire fights, and you got a bunch going on. So it's such a stressful time on your body that January, you are getting ready to lift and train. Like what I'd imagine for Michigan right now, I don't know if they're going to be working out this specific week, but by next week, they're going to start to lay the foundation to actually train at a high level. And really what that means is you're not going to push yourself and do heavy weight. You're going to do lower weight, higher reps. You're going to do striders instead of sprints.
Right.
Your body's still beat up after 6 months of a physical football season. You're just trying to slowly work your way back to where you can train before spring ball.
And I will say, too, like the offseason in terms of workouts, when we were coming off the title, was very different. We had this thing called the 1,000 Rep Club. And Michigan was fortunate enough to be able to roll guys so they didn't have to get high rep counts. But I was a guy who had played a ton of reps throughout the year. And my offseason was totally different than other offseasons I had been through, because our coaches were trying to protect my body for the upcoming year. And so there is a lot of how do we make sure we get these guys prepared to go, but we don't do too much because we don't want to hurt them either.
There is such an art to it. Oh, my gosh, the 1,000 Rep Club, you're bringing it back. Well, another piece of this is your diet, too. And this is another time of year where we get to see behind the curtain, what's the diet life? Caden Davis is building up his social media following by showing his followers what he eats on a daily basis as a college football training. So we just told you about the training, but here's the diet of a college football player. How about breakfast? Look at that.
Some chocolate
pancakes. Well, look, here's your training table. Eggs, bacon, pretty much whatever you want. Of course, Caden is a defensive end, so I'd imagine he's got to keep his weight up. JP, what was your ideal breakfast back when you were playing?
Oh, man, so I was big on the oatmeal. I did not like the pancakes on a day where I had to train. So oatmeal, scrambled eggs, some fruit, maybe some yogurt there on the side would usually do me. I also did not like eating bacon or sausage before a morning workout because you could just feel the fat sitting in your stomach. So that was never a thing for me.
I hated eggs growing up, but I knew I needed to gain weight. I was on a weight gain program.
Me too.
I was very skinny.
I need to be on the other program now.
By now, I think I've eaten eggs every single day since my freshman year. They're one of my favorite foods. I had 3 eggs this morning and three pieces of turkey bacon. Eggs, some breakfast meat, potatoes, and some toast. Every day, of course, got to have the coffee. How about some lunch? Because what you have now is, we didn't have this in our time, at least every day. You'd get, now the guys get breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, shakes, everything you need. So now you look at that grill, he's getting a couple burgers made up.
First off, we didn't have that grill up there when I was playing either. All this stuff is new for the folks that are wondering.
Your body allowed you, what you did to sacrifice for the program allowed this one to happen, right?
What's crazy is they're reaping the benefits off of my busted up pinky finger over here, honestly.
Yeah, this is a big part of college is you got to sell to recruits your type of organ. Look at that pinky. Is that pretty?
And that's
Some
why
of
they
us
got
think
that nice
that's very
table
pretty.
now.
Some may not think so. What was your ideal lunch?
Lunch, I was definitely getting it in. So chicken breast was something I ate constantly. Give me some rice, give me some potatoes. Let me get some vegetables in there as well. And if I get a little something sweet with my lunch too, I would definitely take that.
I was a big Chipotle guy. Lunch at that point in time, I'd be in between classes and in between meetings and practice, so I didn't always have time. I needed to eat lunch ahead of practice so I could digest it. So I'd go to Chipotle, of course, when I was on weight gain. I would always get a burrito, double wrap, double rice, double meat, double cheese, sour cream, calorie. It would literally be like as big as my head. So it was big.
How
time.
many pounds did you gain?
I walked on campus. I was an early enrollee. So I remember it was January 9th when I reported.
Sure.
I was 209 pounds at 11% body fat. When we reported for camp in July 27th, I was 243 pounds, and I stayed at 11% body fat. So it's amazing how much stronger I felt at that point in time. I got faster. The college weight program, if you dedicate yourself to it, the progress that can be made in 6 months is truly remarkable.
I came on campus somewhere around 215-ish pounds. Early enrollee, same thing. Played my freshman year at 235, and then played my sophomore year around 245, and then 250 from there on. So the weight gain thing was always big for me. Let's see what we have for dinner over here, though.
Salad bar?
Yeah,
Salads,
nice.
Vegetables,
Sure.
chicken fingers. There's your chicken breast
like it
too.
might be
Meat,
a little,
potatoes, meat and potatoes. Meat
Little
and
champions
potatoes, meat
dinner
and potatoes.
potentially, huh? We got the steak out there. I know that's only for special occasions. Got the Sunday bar. Aha.
I avoided vegetables because they didn't have enough calories, and I didn't want to get full on anything that didn't have enough calories.
That's such a meathead thing to say, honestly.
Okay. I had a fullback that I played with in Denver, Andy Janovich, a Nebraska guy, so he's part of our show here in terms of the Big Ten. And I remember him, he was jacked up. He would curl 75-pound dumbbells, and he would eat steak and potatoes every night. And I'd say, Andy, do you ever eat vegetables? You're stacked. And he looked at me with a big horseshoe of Copenhagen in.
Sure.
And he said, Copenhagen grows in the ground, so it's basically a vegetable, and walked off. Different breed. Those fullbacks are a different breed.
I feel like that needs to be on a T-shirt.
It should be on gosh, man, he was just missed NIL, so.
Yeah.
Andy, you're a beast, man.
That's pretty good. All right, we're going to take a break over here on Red Corner, Blue Corner, but coming up, we're going to head to the SEC, where an ominous deadline is approaching. We'll let you know what date could have a big impact on next season. Check it out when we return right here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. We're back on Red Corner, Blue Corner. Now, we know this is a Big Ten show, but we got to talk a little bit about the SEC here, and they have a rule in place. It says players who wish to transfer within the conference must be in the portal by February 1st to be eligible for next season. So basically, the spring transfer cannot play in the SEC. Do you think this is a fair rule?
I do think it's fair. Honestly, I think we have far overcorrected, and I think players are just, I don't even know if they know what's best for them. They're just moving around at free will, and I'm for player mobility. I am absolutely for player mobility. Let me make that clear. But at some point, guys, you got to make the decision. You got to live with it. The key here is within the conference. If you want to transfer within the conference, there's going to be guidelines. There's going to be parameters. I totally think it's fair. I'm for it. I think we need to start having a conversation about correcting and tightening some of the transfer rules, JP.
Yeah, I feel like this is a little bit of like an anti-tampering type situation, too, where it's like, listen, if y'all want to go and raid somebody else's roster this late in the year, go ahead and do it. But we're not going to hurt our own conference by raiding our conference members' rosters. And so you guys got to get this thing figured out early in the year. And once that happens, like, you want to go steal from the Big 10, Big 12, you want to go steal from the ACC, that's fine. That's on you. But you're not going to steal from within the conference here.
Yeah, it reminds me of, in the NFL, like, you'll get the final cuts will come, and then usually the week one opponent will see, hey, can we pluck a guy from the team we're about to play week one, right?
To glean any insight.
It's really what this is. But I just think right now the amount of movement who is it really good for? It's just too much. We can tighten this thing down and give clear deadlines and parameters, and everyone could still win.
Yeah, I think the portal is one of the things in college sports, college football specifically, that needs to be examined the most. And I know folks talk about NIL and how dubious that is, and I think that we've seen a lot of good that's come out of NIL. I think there are a lot of kids that get in the portal, that get trapped in the portal. I think the portal is where you see nasty tampering of rosters is going on. That, of course, is augmented by NIL and what you can do for players there. But the idea also of the college football calendar, and I understand it has to line up with academic calendars, but the rush, the mad dash to get in the portal, and then the coaches are all changing at the same time. The whole thing sucks. Like, if there is one criticism that I would have about college football where it's at right now, is the lack of regulation of the transfer portal is really bothering me.
Oh my gosh, the tampering is just flat out. I don't even know if you guys at home really understand. I don't even know if I fully understand how bad it actually is. But again, the next big sweeping change has to be to have clear deadlines of the transfer portal. It would benefit literally everybody. I got to imagine Saban's retirement probably had something to do, some of these coaches moving on with the current state of football. That's neither here nor there. Coming up, we're going to talk some NFL too. I know we're a Big Ten show, we're a college show, but it has been a wild, wild card weekend, and we can see even more craziness today. Check it out on the other side of the break.
Welcome back to Red Corner, Blue Corner. Now, we got a tough moment here for Rams tight end Tyler Higbee. He got hit down at his legs by former Illinois DB and current Lions DB Kirby Joseph. Now, Higbee will undergo an MRI today to determine the severity of the injury, but the team does fear it's a torn ACL. If you saw that moment there, foot kind of stuck in the turf. You could see the knee hyperextend, of course, coming off of that low hit. And this brings up a conversation you and I have had behind closed doors, and you're a guy who had suffered multiple knee injuries. I'm a guy who suffered multiple concussions when I was playing the game of football. And Chris Collinsworth actually mentioned on the broadcast for NBC yesterday, he said you talk to guys in the league, and most of them will tell you if they had the opportunity between the high hit and the low hit, they would prefer to be hit up top because they don't want to ruin their knees. Would you agree with that sentiment about the preference to maybe be hit up top rather than having someone take a dive at your knee?
First off, that exact tackle is the exact tackle that happened to me in the bowl game, where like my leg was planted in the ground and a safety came and torpedoed right through my knee, and it was just like, you were truly helpless. And I get it as a bigger guy, like guys are going to go low on you. Right. So I get it. And okay, I also don't want to speak out of line because I know you're a concussion guy, and I don't want to downplay the significance of that.
No doubt.
I will say though, like, I do think that there's a lot, that's, to me, I'd imagine that that's the exception, not the rule, to have serious, long-term, lifelong consequences from concussions when you consider the sheer amount of hits in the game of football.
Right.
When it's bad, and I don't want to downplay that. But, I mean, there is millions and millions of hits head-on-head in a given football season. As a guy that's torn my ACL 3 times and been hit in my knees a number of times, I would much prefer to take the risk up here, up top. And occasionally that will mean you get a helmet to helmet. I get that, but I'd much prefer to be hit up top. That's just a tragic picture to see Higbee go down, truly helpless. And these knees, man, I don't know what happens on the other side of that knee injury. He's had a number of knee injuries throughout his career. I don't know, can he be the same player on the other side? Yeah,
it's a very intriguing conversation to have, certainly, because one thing I do know is I would have a concussion, and then a week or two later, I'd be available to play. Whereas you have a knee injury like that, and you're on the shelf for nearly a year. And I know that technology has gotten better, and modern medicine is a miracle.
You're not even fully healthy after a year either. No,
I mean, but guys are getting back. But like, I knew that after a concussion, I could be back. So I'm not advocating for catastrophic brain injuries or anything like that. But I think we also understand as football players that we need our legs to make money. It's very valuable to us, and so I think a lot of people want to protect it there. I think the other thing that's happened too, because the NFL and college has done a great job to try to eliminate some of the vicious high hits. I see quarterbacks doing things that are uncharacteristic nowadays because they understand that their receivers should not be in harm's way for a vicious high hit over the middle of the field. Did you know that 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, a quarterback would never throw a football over the middle of the field with the safety standing in there because they knew that was a hospital ball and get their guy killed. And nowadays we see quarterbacks throwing the football there because they know that their receiver cannot get hit high. Yeah. But you know what happens? The other way around that is your receiver gets hit low. And that is still a hospital ball, just in a different way. And I don't like there are so many different ways that it's evolved, and I just don't like a lot of it.
Tom Brady has actually spoken on that exact thing where he talks about the accountability for the quarterbacks, and that's a big piece of this. So I don't know. I think we've overcorrected with the rules. If you're chasing perfection and assuming that no one's ever going to get hurt, you're in the wrong business.
You never get there. But that'll do it for us. We'll see you on Thursday over here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. Take care.